Thanks. So I'll call this meeting of the WRC Executive Board to order at 6 o'clock. Everybody's timely. Thank you so much. Are there any changes to the agenda? All right, hearing and seeing none. We'll move on to the next item, which is the administrative reports, specifically our secretary's report from our last meeting, August 12th, 2024. The link was provided in the agenda. I hope everyone had a chance to review it. I'd entertain a motion to approve the August 12th, 2024 report. Thank you, Anne. I have a second by Jack. Thank you. Discussion and corrections? It looked good to me. So seeing and hearing none, all those in favor of approving the secretary's August 12th report, raise your hand or say aye. All right, that looks to be unanimous. You can't vote twice, so motion passes unanimously.
Gabby, who actually prepares the minutes? Chris, do you do it or does Ashley do it?
I do, and then Ashley helps clean them up.
That's nice. Good team.
All right, next up, end of fiscal year staff compensation proposal. So I think what, Inessa is here to discuss, and thank you for sending the memo around about compensation as well as dental. Is, we try to keep, and as we talked about with the budget, we try to keep sort of staff compensation consistent, but we had a surplus this year, and so we thought it would be nice to reward our staff. Our staff is excellent, and I know we all appreciate them. So to the extent we can give them something extra, I think we would all be in favor of that. But I'll let Inessa talk, or Chris, do either one of speak to the memo and speak, I guess, specifically for the compensation, and then the dental was in your memo as well.
I will let Chris to speak. I'm here just if there's any more detailed questions to help.
Yeah, so hopefully everybody got the proposal. The idea was I asked Inessa to look at what percentage basis based on each staff person's FY24 salary we could handle. What the goal is, of course, is to try to stay ahead of cost of living, but also, frankly, just to remain competitive in terms of salary and try to retain our staff, because we're really, I mean, I've said it a number of times, but we're really fortunate to have the capacity that we have now relative to what we used to have, especially among the senior planners who are able to just walk right in and be able to support a broad array of town planning projects and regional planning. And we're just in a really good place. And I'd like to keep us there as long as possible. And I've learned, don't take for granted that people aren't going to be compelled to look elsewhere for whatever reason. So one, just trying to keep us competitive. And so what Inessa and I came up with was 5%. And then we have a new employee, and he's been doing a fantastic job. He wouldn't get the 5%, but we thought it would still be good, kind of, as an end of year's incentive to kind of recognize the good job that he's doing. And so, I don't know, Gabby, would you prefer to take one of these at a time? I guess. And also, I hope it's okay, Gabby, for just to mention that we had. Inessa and I had met with Gabby ahead of the full commission meeting, and Gabby suggested this would be a good idea just to bring to the executive board. I hope you don't mind my saying that, Gabby, but again.
No, it's all good. All good.
So that's the based on the analysis with Nessa. I don't know if you want to say more, but our end of year position looks to be very strong. Cash flow shouldn't be an issue, and we should still have. Of course, we don't know exactly what our year end is going to be because we are still in our last month of the fiscal year, and Vanessa will be doing the accounting to wrap up the fiscal year in October. But all projections point to a very positive end of year with us being able to retain some substantial savings. So, and that's anything else you want to say?
No, not really. We, as you mentioned, we sort of grabbing an average of billing per quarter estimate in September and an average of expenses. Expenses are pretty much straightforward. The only one big one would be a fractional share for our space, rental space. We pay 1 year sort of share for the heat and all those electricity, trash and snow removal and all that stuff. So that's like an extra, but it's budgeted. It's, you know, it's known expense. So, and, you know, cash flow wise, all the expenses and revenue will hit a little bit, you know, in October, because we bill in within October for this last quarter, and then we'll be receiving maybe even in November for some projects. So that's the cash flow. But in the bank, we have a little over 300,000. I wanted to mention that we started our year with, at the end of September, we had 297,000 in the bank. So we started the year with a good cash flow. We didn't lose any cash throughout the year. And so we actually, with that being said, we actually did not receive anything from the ACCD, our core program. They usually sent us first 2 quarters payments in July. We did not receive that yet. So without those money, we are a little over 300,000 right now in the bank. So, you know, audit will happen for this year, and it will settle where we are. So, but I feel strongly that cash-wise, we can handle this bonus.
And one last thing, just note the compensation theory here is that, and I think I've told you this before, I just don't want to artificially raise salary expectations because people organize their lives right around what their annual salary is to be. And so given the uncertainty about what's going to happen, and you know, we based our FY25 budget on and salary ranges based on what we think we can reasonably be sustained in like FY26 and beyond, all things being equal. But there's also, right, you know, we had some additional funding come to us this year. And so, you know, while I don't love the bonus approach, you know, like when I worked for county government, you had a salary schedule. So you generally knew what you were going to make 1 year to the next, and you know what the steps were going to be. And then if the county did bonuses or something, that was on top of that. But we just don't have that kind of predictability. So again, not thrilled with like the bonus or additional compensation approach, but it is a way for us to try to again remain salary competitive, but also then set salary expectations in a way that we're not ultimately having to claw it back in down years. Of course, that's always a possibility, but you know the goal is to plan not to do that.
Right.
So that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
I think we should I think you provided me context when we met, Chris, which is, we had some EDs from other RPCs sort of doing a review, like, right, from VAPTA. Do you remember?
Right.
Like several months ago, we had 2 other EDs. And so really this came out, I think, as part of our review, right, Chris, is that we are at the bottom end of the salary plus benefits scale. And so both of these, the bonus plus the increase in dental benefits is just starting to chip away at the difference so that we can start being more and more competitive. I think when Chris says that, it's literally not only with Massachusetts and New Hampshire and states that are close to us, but also, within the state itself. So we want to try to start increasing our salaries plus fringe. I mean, because I think everybody, feels that we want to show appreciation. We want to keep the employees we have because they are very good.
With the dental, this is the proposal to start January 1st, 2025.
Do you want, Gabby, do you want to go to dental now, or do you want to do the end of year comp?
Let's just do the compensation. Let's do the bonus first and then go to dental, if that's okay with everyone.
Yeah.
Because they're related but separate. So I'd entertain a motion to approve 5% salary bonus as proposed in Inessa's memo. I think Stephen had his hand up.
I had a question, actually.
So let's do the motion and then we'll have a discussion, okay?
I'll wait.
Yes, so Jim had the motion, Steve Lemke had the second. Thank you all. All right, so the motion on the floor is to increase, to have a bonus at the end of the year for staff as proposed in Anessa's memo. Stephen, you had a question.
Yes, and this, in terms of taxes, is this bonus defined as a bonus, or is it simply part of their wage? Because I'm wondering what the tax implications are between doing it as a bonus or doing it as part of the wage. Sometimes bonuses get taxed to a point where you don't get much out of it. So I'm just curious how it's done from both the federal and the state perspective.
I had set it up as a 5% out of gross amount salary. I estimated 10%, everybody's different brackets, but 10% of the tax come out. So, it's a loss between 500 and less, they will have to
Yeah,
pay payment. Yeah. So
But it's taxed as regular income, right, Anessa?
yeah, it will be a part of the salary, part of the gross and
Income.
it will be,
Okay.
income. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Yeah, I mean, if it will be $500 of a bonus, then it's, we would have to maybe give a little more to compensate or try something like that. But, the amounts are pretty good, I think, and, you have to pay tax on it.
Yes, no, I just wanted to make sure that the after-tax results are what we expect and the before-tax results. And sometimes the taxes have an impact, negative impact. Thank you.
And Anessa, correct me if I'm wrong, but like also for our retirement savings and all that, it counts as income towards
Yep.
that.
Yep, I estimated our payroll tax with, the employer payroll tax come out as an expense, also a little bit higher because of those extra expenses. And I estimated the VEMR's going up a bit too. So yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, Steve Lemke?
Just so I'm clear, we voted for a 3% salary increase a few months ago or a few weeks ago, and this will be the 5% for strictly for the bonus. So it's 3% salary, what?
It's 5%. This would be 5% of their FY24 salaries. We voted for a 3% increase for their FY25 salaries.
Right,
So-
but so they're expecting a 3% increase going forward, and this is based on this year's salary. Okay.
Correct. Yep.
All right,
correct.
thank you.
Mhm.
Sorry,
Ann?
And just on average, what is the gap between what we're paying and other regional plans are paying, more or less?
We've got a salary survey. We do it among the RPCs every year. And actually the National Association of Development Organizations is going to do this nationally. So we'll be getting a survey soon. But what the other directors advised me about was just, I don't think it's necessarily our salary levels. It was especially our benefits. Other RPCs are doing things like providing daycare or daycare allowance or family medical leave allowance and other things like that. So
Tuition.
it was, and then on the medical benefits, others had already like moved towards paying the full freight for dental and other things like that. So it's more just encouraging us to just be as robust as we can be. Some of the other RPCs have been, some of the other RPCs also have like RDC elements in them, frankly, and they have like a bigger income stream. Some of them just have things that they can do that we don't have the option of doing. So some of them are able to offer more robust packages. I guess we could share at some point the salary surveys. My concern is I don't know how public. I mean, of course, any of our salaries is public under state law, and anybody can look at our salaries internally. So I guess at some point, if you like, we can share the salary survey. It probably makes sense to do it after the next one is done. But I'll talk to Gabby about that and see what you guys want to do. But it is so, and I guess it's the answer is, there are a lot of different factors. And so really it's kind of looking at we also do a benefit survey. And so that's what they were looking at, was like the benefit survey and the salary surveys.
Got it. Okay,
That
that
makes
was
sense.
helpful.
We also wanted to remember that we went with the more robust VEMR's Vermont Retirement Plan Group B now, and we had an offer to employees to participate. Some did chose to participate, some stayed where they are, depending on where they are closer to retirement. So that is also, compared to 9% that we cover for Group A, now it's 13% total, but employee have to cover a little bit up to 3% from their paycheck. So
And
that's
what they
a
say.
pretty
So,
good.
like, the other RPCs may pay more in salary, but we're doing more robust contribution to their retirement. So that's why it's all like, there are lots of different moving parts.
Got it.
Any other questions? These are all good questions. All right, hearing and seeing none. All those in favor of the motion to approve the proposed compensation adjustment package as proposed? I see it's unanimous. So motion passes. Thank you all, and thank you, Ness and Chris.
Thank you.
And then I think moving on to the other proposal, to make our compensation package more robust, is the dental benefit proposal. Which is basically to propose to pay the cost of the premiums for the employees, the entire cost.
The employees will still be responsible for the family share, but we would treat this just so in case you don't know or forgot. What we do is like our healthcare premiums, the executive board voted, I forget it's always been this way, but we clarified it, I forget how long ago now, that like the individual premiums associated with health, with Blue Cross, well, our health insurance, if the employee doesn't opt in, the employee then gets that, whatever that premium amount is, added to their compensation. The logic just being that is part of your compensation, and you're still paying for healthcare one way or another, even if you're on a spouse's program, benefit program or whatever. So we're taking the same approach with dental. It's not a huge amount of money, but it's something. And so for those who want to opt into the dental, they'll get the full coverage. For those who don't, whatever that premium cost is, that'll go towards their salary. So it's just consistent with that way we've been approaching that health insurance premium.
I think my only question is, was this increase budgeted? It's only a couple $1,000s, but I'm assuming it was in our budget that we just approved.
Yes. I mean, and we allowed. We're now trying to figure out what our, we budgeted for it. We assumed a 10% increase in our health insurance costs for the FY25 budget. We're still trying to figure out exactly what that's going to be. We're going to have to change insurers. Our agent is comparing different, providers. So we'll see what ultimately the cost will be. But we have enough flexibility in our budget that we can certainly cover this. And really, even if the health insurance premiums wind up being on the higher end, we'll still have enough in our budget to cover it based on the assumptions that we made. But we'll report back to you what we wind up having to do on the health insurance side. Is that a fair summary, Anessa?
Yes, probably close to November. I think we will know something in October.
Yes, Stephen?
Yeah, and in terms of the dental insurance, for an individual, what's the upset limit on the amount the insurance company will pay for dental services in the course of a year?
You mean the premium cost?
No, not the premium, but how much
The benefit itself? Oof.
the benefit itself, how much of the
Yeah.
dentist bills do they cover?
I think it's 1,000, and you can carry forward like 500 in some plans. Yeah, and our insurer offers 2 different plans. One is like simple, and another one like premium, and couple of people chose the other one. So it may vary a little bit benefit wise. I'm not quite sure, but yeah. Usually
We've
they
offered to
give
offer the,
1,000.
we've offered to do the premium because the cost differential is so small.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I guess, Chris, if this is already in our budget, do you need a vote from us? I mean, if it's
Well-
already included in our budget.
It would be a change to our benefits offerings.
Okay,
So
okay.
it'd be good to have exec board approval on that. I don't know if it's totally necessary, but as director, I would feel better about it.
It has to be changed in the salary benefit summary that we provide. Yeah.
Okay. So I'd entertain a motion to approve paying the entire premium for an individual's dental insurance. I need a motion. So Bonnie and a second by Jack. I just saw your hands in that order. Okay. Any further discussion?
Just wanted to mention that it will start January 1st.
Yes, to start
Okay.
January 1st as proposed by in the memo.
Okay.
Mhm.
Who made the motion, Gabby?
Bonnie did with a second by Jack. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor of the dental benefit proposal as set forth in the memo? I see everyone's hands, it's unanimous. Motion passes. Thank you all.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Nessa. Again, I think you can stay or you can
Yeah, no,
leave
I'm
if you'd
gonna hang
like.
out.
But thank you for being here.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, next up, we have full commission meeting agendas and dates through December.
So just as a reminder, so we have our four-town housing, charrette, the September 23rd through 26th. And so that would conflict with when we normally have full commission. And that was just when we could get the visiting professionals here. And it was just the best we could do working with the folk that we were working with. And then the other issue in October, majority of us, many of us will be at the Northern New England chapter of the American Planning Association in Stowe, when we normally have our October meeting. But we have a couple of really important things that we need to present to the full commission. And so I would still like for us to have two full commission meetings in before the year is out. And just as a reminder too, it's really hard to have a late November and late December full commission meeting for obvious reasons, I think. But so the idea would be to have a full commission meeting on Tuesday, October 22nd, to go over the Act 250 reforms. And what we present, this would be a fairly high level overview, but this would also be kind of help us prepare for what we're going to be doing. We're going to then be also presenting the same information or similar information to the towns, like via a webinar that we would also record. So on Tuesday, October 22nd, we would have an Act 250 reform summary. And then on Tuesday, November 12th, which would be the normal date for the executive board, we would, Matt would review, by then we anticipate having the draft regional plan, and he would present the format of it and the contents and begin to solicit commissioner feedback on the draft plan before we begin the kind of a robust public outreach strategy starting in the new year. Moves that public outreach strategy by like a month and a half, but it just seemed to be cleaner to really like start that in the new year and just roll as opposed to interrupting it. So the main questions for you, are you okay with that approach? Or are you okay with the dates?
Yeah, Ann?
I have select board budget meetings on both of those Tuesdays. So for me, Monday and Tuesdays are not good nights. Is Wednesday an option?
Not for me necessarily. I have I
No.
think, other meetings.
Okay.
And I
Chris, did
think
you say both of these are full commission meetings or one is,
both are full commission meetings, but one of them the one on the 12th would fall on your regular executive board meeting date.
right, okay.
And these will be recorded, right? So maybe it's okay that
There's no decisions to be made or
There's no
anything
decisions.
really.
It sounds fine.
So I think we're okay. I think we should, I think unless people have
figured
strong
you're-
feelings otherwise, I think that since they're informational really, rather than decisional, that we should, I think that makes sense with staff schedule and with the holiday schedule, and that we will make sure that the recordings are available.
Is that, everybody okay?
Yes.
And just one last out, just so you know, so you can put it in the back of your head in case I get hit by a bus or something. Under state law and per our bylaws, we're supposed to have a minimum of 6 meetings a year. And so this helps us do that six meetings a year. Not that I don't think I would be arrested or Gabby would be arrested or you would be arrested if we did 5. And we did do 5, I think, during the first pandemic year. But just wanted to remind you that's another. I mean, we need to have these meetings, but it's just another impetus to try to have those too. So, all
Do you
right.
mean for the full commission or just the executive committee?
Full commission.
Full, okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. Thank you all.
All right. Moving on to committee chair appointment. So this is really just a discussion as we sort of are maneuvering around with our treasurer, and to make sure that people still wanted to chair where the committees they are currently are chairing. Anna's moving into the treasurer role, which is great. She's getting oriented next week. So we thank Tim for his effort for the past several years and for making sure there's a smooth transition. But I think this is just to do a check-in as Anne transitions to a different role. People, I think Jack is looking for a slow exit, is to make sure you still want to chair. And if not, I think reach out to either myself or to Chris, and we can have a discussion about that and make sure all of our committees are covered.
My thinking of having this on the agenda wasn't necessarily for you guys to resolve this tonight, but to get that conversation started, because Jack has expressed a desire to transition out from project review committee chair. Of course, Tim will need to transition out from energy committee chair. So there'll need to be some shuffling around.
So just start thinking about that. We can, my intent is to keep the chairing as is for now. And then I think Chris, as one of our action items, will put it on our next executive committee meeting. But in the meantime, if everyone could think about it and say, hey, I can't commit, or I can commit, or I can commit to more. Let's have those discussions offline. All right. All right, moving on to committee appointments. We actually have 2. The first one is in the agenda, which is Patty Smith, who's a new rep or new commissioner from Marlborough. Her requests were natural resources, planning coordination, or project review committee. So given her expertise, my inclination was to appoint her to natural resources and planning coordination. I don't even know how many, actually, did she request all 3? Or we usually with new commissioners put them on 2 committees so they're not too overwhelmed. So my inclination would also be to appoint her to 2 of the 3 requested.
Gabby, can I ask?
Yeah.
Regarding Patty's appointment, the natural resources is obvious because that's her expertise. But in terms of project review, a lot of the project reviews do have environmental issues that might benefit from her expertise in environmental issues. So you were talking about planning coordination. I'm just wondering, as an alternative, suggesting project review. And it's up to Jack, obviously.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with that. I think the concern I have with the committee at this point, period, is that there's a lot of new blood that's been through next to nothing. And adding even more new blood as I transition out, I don't, there'd be a lot of turnover there with very little experience. But I don't know much about her background, but I'll defer to Stephen. If she's got a lot of experience there, he's absolutely right. Natural resources, A&R type issues tend to be in the forefront of almost everything we look at.
So I think, you know, her experiences in natural resources and sort of natural landscape. So I guess I was thinking of for because it's such a big part of our land use planning for our towns. And it was her second request versus, you know,
Okay.
And another-
prioritize. I mean,
Oh, I'm sorry.
oh, go ahead, Chris.
There's another aspect to it too, which is we're going to be having all this discussion about the different tiers under the new Act 250 reforms. And it's going to impact our, right, we're going to move forward with our map under the current rubric for this regional plan update. But then very quickly, we're going to have to update our regional plan map to reflect the consistency in the land use categories, which fortunately are very similar to ours, but then there's going to be this whole tier 3 critical resource mapping effort that the state is going to identify those resources. It's going to be like an overlay, but we're going to need to reflect it on our mapping and other things. So it'd be good. It'd be good, I think, to have that perspective in planning coordination too.
Yeah, just a suggestion, but obviously her priority as well. If her second request was planning coordination, yes, thank you.
Okay, so I don't think we need a motion, but I think is everyone in agreement? We'll appoint Patty to natural resources and planning coordination. We can always give her the option to join the third. So should she get settled in with the first two and one another, we always make that offer. So maybe she'll be in all three and that would be good too. And then the other one we had, which is not on our agenda, is Corey Ross, who's our Citizens Interest Commissioner for Conservation. And we're entertaining appointing him to the Natural Resources Committee, given his expertise. Does anyone have any issues with that?
I don't have any issues with it. The Natural Resources Committee is, shall we say, flush with people, and but boy, you got some talented people coming, and both of them would add to the committee quite a bit.
Yeah, you have a very robust and active committee, so you know you're very lucky.
Yeah.
Excellent.
What's his second choice?
There was none.
I'm sorry?
There was none. And we asked them, you know, they could do 1, 2, or 3, and he just indicated he wants to be appointed to Natural Resources, just one.
Thank you.
All right, so we will appoint Corey to Natural Resources. So Jim, you have a bunch of new members with very good experience and backgrounds. All right, I'm going to move on. Those are all of our appointments to the Executive Director's report. Chris.
So I already talked to you, we gave you the overview, but basically we want to do outreach to the towns on the Act 250 reforms that were passed by statute this last legislative session. And so the idea is, as we just discussed, we'll do one for the commissioners in October, and then we would do one soon thereafter, probably early November, but it could also be late October for municipalities as well. As you may recall, I've mentioned this before. We didn't want to do it too soon after the legislation was passed in June, so that there are a lot of different committees and appointments and other things that are going on right now, and so we just wanted everything to kind of gel a little bit more first. So if there were questions, we can kind of say, and this is the status of where the NRB is, and evolving into a land use review board and that kind of stuff. So. And then also, frankly, just staff capacity to have the time to pull it together. So that's the plan. I just want to get you up to speed on that, because we've had a number of towns kind of reach out to us like, what do we need to do? And so that's the point of this.
Chris, could I ask who will do the
Matt
sessions?
will do it.
Matt, thank you.
He's very good. And he's been our point person on this, and I have he's he's been volunteered, volunteered him, he has volunteered for some of these kind of discussions among the RPCs, like we're supposed to develop things like regional land use map protocols and consistency. And so he'll be a part of that discussion. So he's very good at that. And he's our lead on municipal planning and our lead on training. So he's really well suited. And I think if Jim can attest, and maybe others, he did a really good kind of introduction to zoning for Vernon, and I think he did the same thing for Guilford, and could talk about things and not get chased out of the room. So it's it worked out well. So let's see. Oh, so the regional plan, Commissioner, I didn't understand my English in the for a second there. So as I also mentioned, we've gotten all the language into the web. You know, we're going to have a digital plan, and so we've gotten all the plan language and everything into the website designer, and so they're in the process of building all that out. They've been incredibly patient with us as we've been getting them information, so we don't want to push them too hard. So, but we think November will probably be more than enough time for them to get that draft pulled together. And so the idea is to, as I mentioned, introduce it to the commissioners in November, start getting commissioner comments, you know, through the end of the year. And of course, they can continue to come in at any time, but then really ramp up and roll out the public engagement in January. And this would be both digitally, but then also we've talked about like at least 3 or 4 in-person meetings around the region to solicit input on the draft plan. And so that's the schedule that staff would propose. We sat down and kind of looked at everything that we're trying to manage, and this just seemed to make the most sense. So just, are there any concerns about that? Y'all comfortable with that? Okay. Had the first meeting of the Regional and County Governments Committee, which is a legislative committee. And then I'm representing the RPCs on the technical advisory group. We had our first meeting is really just introductions of everybody who's serving on this. I'll be very curious how it goes, because especially both among the legislators, you know, they're going to be, I think, listening a lot, deliberating a lot. But the technical advisory group that I sit on is, I don't have the whole list right in front of me, but it's like myself. It just happens to be Sheriff Mark Anderson, representing the Vermont Sheriff's Association, the State Association of School Boards. They have a representative. Again, just roll of the dice. Tim Arsenault is representing the Town Clerks Association, Town Clerks and Treasurers Association. So Southeast Vermont is very well represented on the technical advisory group. And then Vermont League of Cities and Towns, it's being facilitated by the Vermont Bond Bank. But you've got a lot of really, and then regional development corporations, and I'm trying to remember who all else, but you've got a lot of really big kind of specialized interests as part of this technical advisory group. And I just don't know how the conversation is going to go. Because, you know, the school boards have their whole structure, the sheriffs have their whole structure in legislation, the RPCs have their, we're probably like the least difficult to, like, cause we can just kind of contribute to like share the info, like, you know, oh, this could work, or this could work, or these are concerns you might have, and this is how that might work. But, you know, with some of the other interests, they're just, you know, way more kind of, I'm going to say entrenched, not in a value way, but just like, you know, just in terms of reality, more entrenched in complicated structures and like regional planning commissions and RDCs. And of course, it's going to be the whole conversation about, you know, both local control, but then also local capacity. And then to what extent does local control bump into the capacity of towns to actually do what they want to do, plus local capacity to do what various state and federal programs are telling them to do, and the unfunded mandates and all that. So it's going to be a huge conversation. So hopefully the Vermont Bond Bank can facilitate this conversation well. Yeah, as you know, I've been kind of, you know, I'm not on the, like a board or anything of the Vermont UVM Leahy Institute, but I kept hearing discussions during both the committee meeting and the technical advisory group discussion that, oh, and the UVM will support this. And I kind of reached out to UVM to say, they said you're going to support this. Is this news to you? And to them, it was kind of like, yeah, it's kind of news to us. So I tried to connect like the state agencies with UVM to kind of say, hey, you guys need to be talking to each other. So that's already kind of my role is I'm just in this weird place where I can kind of see what's happening with state agencies and I see what's happening with external agencies and other stuff. So I'm trying to just keep people talking to each other so that we don't wind up with complications. Let's put it that way. So I don't really have a whole lot to say, but as this progresses, I'll let you know. The legislative committee anticipates that they'll have maybe 1 or 2 meetings again before the legislative session, and then they will stop for the during the legislative session, as they're thinking that that's when the technical advisory group will begin to try to address some of the questions that the legislative committee has. Again, I don't know what those questions are. And that, I think that was maybe an assumption on the part of the legislators leading the committee, but there hasn't really been like a whole robust conversation about how this is going to go. So I think it's all been recorded if you want to watch it. You can go to the legislative website and there's a committees. You can just search county regional governance. I'm sure it'll pop up if you want to watch the initial meetings. So that's that. Stephen?
Yeah, Chris, it's clear the advisory group is rich in experience in topics related to this. What about the legislators? Do they have experience in this kind of topic, or are they just all starting from ground zero and trying to figure out what the problem is?
I don't think they're starting from ground zero. I think the aegis, the impetus for this was as they were having discussions about all these various issues, it kept coming up. The way Chairman Hardy, the senator from Addison County, described it was it kept kind of coming up. It's like, man, might some of this stuff be easier if we like had regional or county government? And so it's not like making a decision, yes, we should have it or we're going to have it.
No,
It's more just teasing it out, like, so what might that look like? What might be the benefits? What might be the challenges? So
thank you.
they've clearly bumped up against the issue of local capacity and of course local control and everything. It was kind of the impetus for having this thing, for them creating this thing. So I wish I had more to tell you. I will keep you informed. And I think I've volunteered to share with you whatever I get that I can share. But so far, it hasn't been much.
Yeah, I've been watching the website and just seeing what's coming up.
Yeah, and there's always, I don't know if you can get I don't know if you can get an alert whenever anything's posted, but they've got where they're going to be posting the documents and everything to that website.
Okay.
So if you just want to, if I ever miss something, you can always look there and see if something new has been posted.
I'll do that. Thank you.
So we're at the very, very beginning of this, and I really, really appreciate the bond bank taking this on, and I also hope that if it winds up being too much for them to take on, that they'll kind of raise their hand and say, we need help. The legislature has, I think, $50,000 to spend on this effort, and it may be that the bond bank will need like a professional facilitating crew to come in and help facilitate the conversation. So not because anybody's going to be ornery or anything, but I mean just to get your heads around our education structure and our public safety structure, or all of that stuff. It's huge. So, and how does that all come together? And then I had a really good discussion with Sheriff Mark Anderson. Some of you had, it was in the paper. It's been in the paper for a few years, where he's really wanting to kind of pilot like a regional policing strategy, with the buy-in from the towns. I think he said of his 22 towns, I assume he excludes Somerset. He's got 17 kind of on board with wanting to explore this a bit more. So just wanted to talk to him about what his thinking was, but also because he's on this technical advisory group, just wanted to get his perspective on what the public safety issues might be going into that, but just also his perspective on this whole regional and county governments discussion. So I don't really have any specifics. I just wanted to let you know it's just a really good conversation. Mark and I have known each other from other conversations, but also when I was a Newfane Village chair of the Newfane Village trustees, we hired the sheriff's department for their services. So Mark would come and make a presentation to us about what we should budget and what we're gonna get for that. But also, I guess I just want to let you know unless you have concerns about it, like if he just wants to kind of get together and talk over, because I've got a lot of experience, having worked in different jurisdictions with all kinds of different forms of governance. His big question is, what would the governance of this thing look like? And without me taking any position from the commission, but just like talking to him, I just wanted to let you know, or I wanted to ask you, I guess, do you have any concerns with me just talking to Mark? And I've also encouraged him to apply for a grant to the Leahy Institute for them to act. The way these grants for the Leahy Institute work is they're not giving money out. It's actually money that stays internal to UVM, but you get technical support basically from faculty and students. And so I encouraged him to apply to them for a relatively small grant to like have faculty research what would alternative governance models look like, in this kind of Vermont context. So to do the research on that. So any concerns with me talking to Mark, again, not representing any position of the commission, and he would clearly, for me to even talk about a position, he would need to come to the commission to say, hey, this is what we're doing. Do you want to take a position on this? So, but any concerns with me just talking to him about this stuff?
No, I think it's great. I
Okay.
know that what he presented to Newfane was the idea of a council of governments idea. So that at last we knew that's what he was focused on.
Yeah, he hadn't really researched them. When I explained to him what they were, it made him a little nervous because he was worried about having 22 bosses. That is not the model that he wants. Which is kind of what you get with a council of government. So, but I also explained to him, like, in other places you've got county legislators and other things, but sheriff's departments too tend to be different than police departments, and there's that whole dynamic as well. And I know just enough about that to be dangerous. I would not engage with him on that kind of conversation, but like being able to talk to him and introduce him like to Linda Dunleavy with Franklin Regional Council of Governments to explain to him how that works in Massachusetts, or how does the Council of Regional Governments work in Connecticut. You're just trying to connect him with those kinds of people who can talk about it.
Let me get this straight. He's gone out to all the towns and told them this is his idea, but he doesn't really understand it.
I may have overstated that. I think he knows the concept of, at least with the Council of Governments, you've got like the actual select board chairs there making decisions. But I think the trick is, what does that really look like when it comes to policing? Because the Council of Governments model, right? Everybody's voting on how much of some kind of service do they want to have, who doesn't want to participate, and then you kind of make those decisions. So I think that's what's really compelling to him. But then I think he's also, though, an elected official, which is different than a paid executive director of a council of governments. And that's the trick, right? That's the kind of stuff that he's trying to figure out. So it didn't mean to say that he was ignorant about it, but it's just that there are nuances to a council of governments model that doesn't necessarily lend itself immediately to providing direction to an elected countywide official. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So what does that look like? Is it a model, is it a council of governments model, or is there something else out there? And that's where it'd be beneficial to have somebody with the time and bandwidth to like do the research of what other public safety models exist out there. Are within the realm of councils of government, is there a public safety aspect to it? And is it a hired chief? Again, this is where I was getting into, like, is it a paid professional chief of police, or is it an elected sheriff? Which is, and I forget what the laws say now. I think they're trying to establish some standards for sheriffs and some kind of certification, but it's just a different dynamic. So doesn't mean to get Mark in hot water, but that's where you start getting into the details that matter. Does that help, Ann?
It does help. His
Okay.
presentations have been remarkably sketchy.
I think he's still trying to figure it out, right? And what I have to say, I have been impressed with, he's learned a lot of this by the seat of his pants, and he's learned a lot over the years and kind of seen a lot. So like even just his grasp of kind of the differences is pretty impressive. It's not like he's, I'm a public administration geek. I have a degree in this stuff, but not, but he's learned all this stuff kind of on his, on his own tutelage and kind of reaching out and professional conferences and other things. So,
Well, I would certainly be
Yeah.
supportive of your being able to help him in whatever way your time allows. He needs it.
yeah, I'm just glad that we're having the conversation because we got to figure out something that works. So that's all I've got. Oh, well, one other thing, I also serve on, so we have the directors retreat the next 2 days. Well, Thursday and Friday, we've got the directors retreat, and as you know, I chair the emergency planning committee and natural resources committee. So provided the other directors and I've convened our committees to kind of recommend priorities. So that's happening. And so once that happens, I'll come back to you next exec board, just to kind of say, hey, this is what the RPC directors discussed as our priorities for the coming year. Then also we did send a letter, the RPC directors did, to the House and Senate Appropriations Committee and House and Senate Government Ops, making them aware of the cuts to our emergency management planning grant funding and asking that funding be restored and that we get the 10% and we get a 10% increase because we were level funded since 2017 and 18. So we've got that ball rolling with the request to the legislators. And then I'm also representing the RPCs on the Building Energy Code working group, which is a legislatively created working group looking at how to improve compliance with the state building energy code. And I represent the RPCs on that. You may ask, why in the hell am I on that? It's because in Calvert County, Maryland, as part of one of my duties as Deputy Director of Planning and Zoning, I oversaw inspections and permits. So I've actually kind of lived that life. But one of the questions before this group is to consider the merits of having a statewide building code in addition to the building energy code. I'm not taking a position on that, but I am explaining like this is how these codes work, this is how they don't work. But it's just so you know, for when it comes to single and two family residential, there is no statewide building code. A few towns have adopted a building code or municipalities have adopted a building code. Everywhere else is kind of the Wild West. And to do electrical, plumbing, gas in a single family or two family residential property, you do not have to be a licensed electrician or plumber or anything. You can be a journeyman and there's nobody looking at that. And if they do something wrong, it's up to the property owner to sue that person because they didn't do something in the code. So a lot of people just don't understand, I don't think, just kind of to what extent single family and two family residential development in Vermont is kind of the Wild West. And what's the other fascinating thing is the legislators that sit on this committee and realtors and others, you keep seeing their eyes get awake, kind of opening to what exists in Vermont and what doesn't. So it's a really fascinating conversation. And today I arranged for them to kind of get a tutorial on floodplain administration and the fact that for a number of our towns, the only building code that exists is their flood hazard regulations, which really is in effect a building code. And I hadn't really thought about it in that way. And generally speaking, the floodplain administrators don't know about the building energy code, which is the other building code that applies to all residential and commercial properties in the state. So again, I'm trying to marry all these conversations together and to the benefit of the region. So yeah, so that's that. I'll hush up now because I'm burning up too much time.
All right, thanks so much, Chris. And moving on to committee chair reports, are there any things that happened in committees that the chairs would like to bring to the executive committee? All right, hearing and seeing none, review of action items, and I think the only one that's sort of outstanding is I know, Chris, you're working on sort of bringing back to the executive committee the is there a way to encourage engagement or revamping of the Natural Resources Committee, Energy and Community Development Committee? So I think we'll keep that on the list so we don't lose it. And then
And we've got the committee chair appointments.
committee, yes, please add those on so I don't lose that. And then the only other thing I thought we should put on, and I know like Jack's did a great job at sort of bringing the project review summary out to the full commission. I think that you did a great job, and thank you to Alyssa and Chris as well for preparing some materials. I think it's a really good addition. And I just want to put on our list to follow up on sort of the comments made about at the last full commission, the list of ongoing Act 250 issues, which I think, Chris, you said was sort of we could talk about it more. We don't need to talk about it right now, but I think maybe you, Jack, and I can get together and make sure it's a easy lift for staff, something that we can do quickly and easily. And then, I think also maybe recording the project review committee meetings could be something that we add on to the list, since we're starting to record other meetings as well. So I just want to again, I think we should put on our action items, and then maybe Chris, you, I, and Jack can get together and talk more. Yes, Steve Lemke.
I don't know if this has any impact on all of us or the towns or whatever. I just want to mention that there's a group of us in Guilford who are putting together a thing called the Guilford Guide, and it's based on the Bethel operating manual that Bethel did. And really what it is trying to gather up all the resources in the town, from businesses to how to get a burn permit to how to participate in civic duties, what the different commissions are and things. There'll be an online version of it and a printed version of it that will be sent to everybody in town. It's being financed through the Planning Commission. I just thought I would raise it. I'm more curious to know if other towns, either in the future, we might be able to talk about it to see if there's any reason to encourage other towns to do it or not to do it or whatever. So I just thought I'd mention it.
Okay, great. We'll put that on the action items too.
Okay.
Well, Gabby, just one quick thing on project. If you look at this month's newsletter, I asked the listeners to prepare a summary, and it basically covers what we talked about covering at full commission, which is that it says, "Hi, Project Review Committee discussed these things. Here is the link to our agendas, our minutes, and here's the link to the NRB website to find out all the filings and all that stuff." And so I thought that seemed to be kind of where we were headed towards what to talk about at full commission, but also just what basic information to provide. So we can talk about it more depth later, but I thought that kind of met what was discussed at full commission. So take a look in the newsletter and see what you think.
Chris, to that point, there was a question raised in the last project review committee meeting by one of the members. I'm sort of paraphrasing here, but it was kind of like, what was that discussion all about, and how did that get started? Did you get any feedback from Laura at all?
No, I probably won't.
Okay.
But that's something we can ask her to engage with us in the conversation, however you guys want to handle it. The reason I say we probably won't is I think she just wanted to raise it. And I don't know if she's satisfied. I think she just mainly wanted to raise the issue, and I think she was really glad to see that it's on the full commission agenda. So, but beyond that, I really don't know, Jack.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of unofficially been on the agenda for a long time, and we've talked about other projects, and I just between us kids, I think she really has it in for the
We're being recorded, right, Jack? So
and deck two.
it's not between us kids. So I think actually, because this is not, I don't want to go into a discussion of an item that hasn't been noted properly.
I'm just making a comment, and we can forget about it.
Oh no, I think we should just talk about it offline, and then follow up. I think next executive committee meeting.
Okay.
You all are adding to our list of action items pretty quickly. Anything else? Which I'm sort of joking. So, I totally encourage. And also, if you want to add anything to the agenda, remember, just email, myself or Chris. We're happy to take add-ons to the agenda as well.
Can we adjourn if Tim isn't here?
I will take that as a motion to adjourn, Steve Lemke. Do I have a second?
Thank you.
Oh, my gosh, a lot of hands. All right, Anne, I saw yours first. It's not a debatable motion. All those in favor of adjourning, raise your hand or say aye. Unanimous, so we are adjourned. Thank you all at 7:01 p.m. And we don't have a full commission meeting, so I will see y'all next month.
Right.
Thank y'all.
All right, thank you very much.
Take care, Gab.